Greetings, fellow human, Missy here. And if your fear of something not being perfect is slowing you down or completely stopping you from doing something that you would like to do, then I made this video just for you. To explain this mind shift to you, to get past perfectionism, I thought I would use this YouTube channel as an example. So as you can see, this is my very first video on YouTube. It's a huge step for me and something that I wouldn't have been able to do without this mind shift that I'm going to tell you about. So I have wanted to do YouTube for years and years and years. It started with the golden age of the beauty guru. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but if you're old enough to remember that. But I watched people doing their makeup and chatting, and I just thought, oh, this is amazing. This is so cool to learn from normal, average people and hear stories about their lives. And then, I just went down so many other rabbit holes of learning and hearing about other people's lives, people with chronic illnesses, other people with disabilities, mental health, just so many things. And I really felt like I had something to add to that. But there was this thing in my mind that said, it's not going to be perfect. You don't know what you're doing. You haven't got the perfect face. You haven't got the perfect equipment. You haven't got the perfect lighting. Why try? So I took this little dream of mine and I put it on a little shelf in my mind. And every now and then I would go and look at it longingly, take it down and think, should I give it a try? But that perfectionism was just so huge in my mind that it just seemed impossible. It just seemed like there was no way. So I kept putting it back on the shelf, and something must have changed because here we are. So I'm going to tell you about that. I imagine you've probably got at least one thing like that as well that you have shelved in your mind and would very, very much love to do, but that idea of it needing to be perfect is getting in your way. So the first thing that you need to do is understand what you're up against. So you need to define the fear. What exactly is this fear of things not being perfect? So for me, it comes up a lot more with creative tasks because I find that picture in my mind, there's just so many options. For example, if I'm doing like a social media post, there are so many fonts, there are so many colors, there are so many images, there's just so much to choose from. And I want it to be this perfect picture in my mind, and I don't stop until it's exactly right. And the problem is that just takes forever. So with YouTube, I realized that that's exactly why I couldn't get started, because I had this perfect idea in my mind and there were just all these creative possibilities, and my current knowledge and skills, there's no way I can achieve those things. I don't have the perfect equipment, I don't have the perfect lighting, I don't have the perfect setting, I don't have the perfect face. I have this amazing wandering eye that goes off on its own mission all the time, which I'm sure I will get some comments about, but that's okay. I am an older lady. I have just turned 40, so I'm not the perfect age. And the list goes on and on. So when I looked at this list of fears, I realized that the fear that's holding me back is the fear of what people think when it's not perfect. Because it's not going to be perfect. It is not perfect. And I was afraid of what people would think. And when I thought about that, when I actually faced that fear, I realized that I obviously do care what people think, but I also don't care because the people that I'm making this for will be able to see past the imperfections to what I'm offering. And I also realized that in real life, I'm not everyone's cup of tea and I'm okay with that. So the same can be true online. So the next step is to figure out a why that's bigger than your fear. So for me, I went and thought about why it is that I want to do YouTube. Is it because I want to create this incredibly perfect product? Or is it because I want to make a difference? And that's exactly what it is. I realized that my bigger why is that I feel like I have something to contribute, something to give other people, And that if I could make a difference in just one person's life, and maybe that's you today, then I've done what I set out to do. It doesn't need to be perfect. I realized that even though I do like watching the entertaining channels on YouTube, the ones that are big and flashy and all the effects and everything is just moving so quickly, all the editing, everything is just amazing. I realized that the things that I really like to watch are just real people sitting down, talking about their lives, teaching things, sharing things. That's why I keep coming back to YouTube. I realized for me, my bigger why is making just one person feel heard, feel understood, feel seen. To share one thing with a person that might help them to take one step forward, to have a little bit more hope today, to have a little bit more joy today. I realized that I have so much to share in terms of life coaching, in terms of being a person with a disability. I am legally blind. I have so much to share in terms of help for mental health. I'm not a professional, but I have so much lived experience with panic and anxiety, a little bit with depression, and there's just so much to share. I want to share on support groups. I'm a support group facilitator for panic and anxiety, and there's just so much there to share. And just life in general, the list goes on. I would just love to have somebody else feel seen, feel heard, and maybe walk away with something that helps them. Having this bigger why helped me to face that fear and to realize, you know what, I have something that's more important than the fear. I can do this because that fear seems tiny in comparison to my why. I really hope that you can find a big why that is so much bigger than your fear that it just makes it so much easier to go for the thing that you want to go for. Another big why for me is just that I like a challenge. If you get to know me, you will know I'm always working on something. I'm always challenging myself with something. And I often ask myself, what are you doing to yourself? But that is just one of my personal whys. I just really like a challenge. So the next thing to do is to actually make that mind shift. So the mind shift is that imperfectly done is better than perfectly imagined. So for me, I had to really go and think about my process, about how I do things. And for me, perfect, my best, is planning something out absolutely to the letter, perfectly. Everything has a place, everything is written down, and not to start with it until I have this perfect plan in place and know that I can fill in all the spaces, I can fill in the skills, I can fill in the knowledge. So that was pretty unachievable with YouTube. It's achievable with something like developing a coaching program, because yes, you can plan all of that out, and I did, but it took me forever because again, it all had to be perfect. But with YouTube, there's such a gap between where you want to be and where you are. So in starting this channel, I decided to aim for good enough instead of perfect. I decided that with everything I was going to do, I was going to discipline myself to stop at good enough and not to keep going until perfect. Now, finally, the last thing you need to do is actually start. So that's what I did. Today is Thursday, and I decided the Sunday before last that was it. I was doing YouTube, and I was going to make this mind shift of doing something until it was good enough, and then moving on to the next thing. On the Monday, I made a list of all the things that I would need to do before filming my first video. So that included setting up the channel, all the images that went with that, updating my coaching website, coming up with a list of video ideas, planning out this video, and a whole bunch more things. And what absolutely shocked me is that I completed that list last Sunday. And that was just because I stopped at good enough every time. And completing this list was in addition to all my other responsibilities, like being a mom to a teen and a tot, my usual job, all my home responsibilities, my chores, family responsibilities, like everything else, I managed to complete this huge long list of things, and it actually felt surprisingly easy. And today being Thursday, I had a little test run on Tuesday trying to film the video and figuring out what I could make a little bit better. But today, this is it. This is the not perfect outcome. And I'm not going to stop there. I'm going to make the editing good enough. And going forward, that is going to be my philosophy, that good enough is perfect for this project. So the thing that I've been putting off for years, the thing that I've really wanted to do, ended up taking me a week and a half to get to the hardest part. I mean, how mind-blowing is that? How cool is that? I really hope that this will help you as well. Now, at this point, you might be asking yourself, well, is this not just giving yourself permission to be mediocre, to not grow, to not learn? And I would say absolutely not. I honestly think that this gives you the space to be able to learn, to be able to grow, to be able to try things, experiment, make mistakes, learn from them. With a lot of things in life, we only learn by doing. We only learn in increments. We learn every time we try. And the difference between the first time, the 10th time, the 100th time is going to be vast. And the difference between good enough each time is going to be vast. Your good enough will grow. Your good enough will change. So you're by no means stagnating. So if you feel comfortable sharing, I would love to know in the comments below what the thing is that you have shelved in your brain, that you would love to get down off that shelf and dust off and just start and maybe use this mind shift. And I would love to know if you have an idea of a first step in mind that you can take. If you found this helpful or interesting and you'd like to see more, please like and subscribe, and check the video description below if you would like to work with me as your life coach. Until next time, fellow human, remember that you can do the thing. Just focus on good enough and not